Good morning, everyone, and welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Proud to be here with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and hope you're having yourselves a terrific week. You know that we have our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with LeMoyne College, and we are stepping into, in just a few days, we'll be stepping into year 3 of our partnership with LeMoyne. And in this time, LeMoyne has made the transition from Division 2 to Division 1, and very excited for all that means as we step forward here. Inside of MonPawsPopcorn.com is what's poppin'. Joining us in just a moment live will be picture-in-picture with Liz Beville, the head coach of the women's lacrosse team at LeMoyne College for the Dolphins, to speak on our Road to D1 series as we talk with the coaches all throughout LeMoyne College about this move. And in hour number 2, we'll have Blessings in Baseball, speaking on faith, something that we love, as well as the awesome sport of baseball, Major League Baseball trade, Shohei Ohtani, and the Tampa Bay Rays with the Tampa Bay Rays press box manager, Dukes Knutson. So with that being said, our first portion of today's show in our Road to D1 series. Very happy to be picture-in-picture here with Liz Beville, once again, LeMoyne women's lacrosse head coach. Liz, how are you?
I'm doing great, Dan. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And Liz, I mean, this is a unique situation for women's lacrosse because we just got to celebrate an anniversary of 30 years. You got a victory on that anniversary. And at the same time, a part of LeMoyne women's lacrosse history is being in Division 1. So this is a little bit of a difference here because it's a return to D1. What does that
Mhm.
mean to you?
Well, I think it's just an opportunity to rejuvenate the program and bring back those alums that started as Division One players. We've obviously had some great alum support in the recent years, but it kind of goes in waves on the women's side. So I think for me, the way I look at it is, hey, we've got a chance to really rejuvenate that kind of alumni base and kind of go back and lean on those people that did play Division One. Obviously, it was a different conference, but it's the same level. And the teams that they played, they're going to get excited about seeing some of those teams now on our schedule again, like a Canisius and Niagara, schools like that. So it's a great opportunity.
I know that you are a planner, like well in advance. So
hmm
when you look at scheduling and, kind of having things ready down the road and then this move to Division 1, how much did you have to kind of adjust the plan for your scheduling and move some things around?
Well, it's a whole new schedule
Right.
with a new conference and new non-conference teams. Obviously it was a pretty late decision. Happening late May, so it didn't give us a whole lot of time. But I think we did really well. Again, part of the move to Division One, the idea is that those non-conference teams can now be day trips. So we're fortunate in that aspect where there are a lot of schools within a 2-3 hour drive that now instead of overnight games, we're just doing a day trip to some of these institutions. So we were able to put together a pretty competitive schedule. We're pretty excited about it. Have some great fall ball scrimmages lined up as well with some teams we've seen in the past and some new teams that will be playing. So we're excited about the schedule that we've put together.
And what can you say about the fall ball schedule and some of those teams that we're going to be able to see you compete up against?
Sure. So, in the past, we've always scrimmaged Division One teams. That's really been kind of a thing we've done as a division that we did as a Division Two program. We always were trying to play up a little bit to just see where we were at, to give ourselves a test, see what we needed to work on to really get to that next level. So that's not going to change. We're still going to scrimmage some Division One teams. I think our one play day is at Colgate. We weren't able to get a game with them on the schedule, so it'll be nice to have a fall play day with them. And then we'll head down to Cortland for another play day that'll have a couple Division Three, Division One teams, all just kind of a mix. But it's just again, there these opportunities in the fall are a chance for the team to play someone different, which is really exciting. They want to do that. They don't want to just keep practicing over and over and over. And then again, just see where we are to kind of measure where we're at and where we need to go.
Here with Liz Beville, the head coach of LeMoyne Dolphins women's lacrosse program in this Road to D1 series. For you, Liz, as a leader, you've seen through obviously your dad, you've seen Division 3, you've seen Division 2 and in the work that you've done, and now this move to Division 1. What are your thoughts on this transition? And as a leader, did you ever have the expectation or the thought like, hey, maybe I'll be the head of a D1 program, or was that something that you hadn't thought about before?
So for me playing Division 3 lacrosse, I can tell you back then, no, I never really had my eyes set on Division 1. I never like aspired to it, I would say. I think Division 3 is probably the most different than the 2 and 1.
Yeah.
So it definitely wasn't something like growing up or in college that I had my eyes set on. I think when I got into coaching, I quickly realized that experience is necessary in order to move up the coaching ladder. And I remember doing an article way back for the IWLCA about that and just taking every opportunity. So, I started in Division 3 and then I got a Division 2 coaching gig. And then I was at Colgate for a year with Division 1. So I've had that experience before. There's not a ton that's really different between the two, Division 1 and Division 2. More practices. Obviously, expectations I think are going up a little bit, but I think for us, the level of competition, the type of kid we want to bring in, the school isn't changing. Like we have to make sure that those academics and what the kids want to do, that they're excelling in that first, and that's not going to change here at LeMoyne. So it's just getting our stick skills sharpened up a little bit, getting the speed of our game to be a little bit faster. I think we've always played fast, but it's a whole new level at Division 1. So I think our girls are ready for it. And for me as a leader, you've got to roll with the punches and you've got to be ready for whatever's next. So again, way back, probably didn't think I'd be in this position, but I'm excited for the opportunity and ready to get rolling here.
Yeah, and like you said, not thinking that you'd be in this position, but now being in it and accepting those challenges. Can you lean on something else? I'm sure there's a bunch of instances in your playing and coaching career where there's a challenge that arises, right, on and off the field, where you have to, whether you're ready or not, kind of get after it. Do you lean on a moment or two where you go back and say in your career as a player or as a coach or a student or whatever in life that this is something, this move, that I can go back to this and say, I got through that, I navigated that, I'll figure this out? Do you have kind of pillars of your history that you can lean on?
Well, I think you always lean on your experiences as a coach, whether it was a playing instance or a coaching. I think the biggest thing with this transition is it's new for everybody here at LeMoyne. It's not just women's lacrosse. It's not baseball. It's all of us. So we're all really leaning on each other. I think the biggest thing that all of us coaches are trying to do is keep a positive attitude and just keep an open mind. I don't know that leaning backwards right now, we're in a weird spot, I would say, because we have a fall season to kind of prepare us and to figure things out, and then we play in the spring. We're not like a soccer who has to jump right into this and like it's bam, it's here.
Yeah.
So for us, we do get a little bit of that time. So I just think keeping an open mind and staying positive is the biggest thing that all of us coaches here can do. We're certainly going to have to lean on our experiences, but I think those will come more in the spring once we're actually in season. I think our focus, as it's always been in the fall, is getting the team to bond, starting that team chemistry, and just really honing in on some of those the skills, like the stick skills I mentioned, and our speed and our fitness levels. Like those are those big things that whether we were Division 1 or 2, those have to happen in the fall for us. So there's nothing I could think of like right away right now. If you asked me this in January, I'd probably have a different answer for you.
Yeah, and like you said, the way that you go after things, the way that you recruit, you're not recruiting down, right? That's what a lot of coaches talk to me about at LeMoyne is we're not looking for Division 2 players. We're looking for Division 1 talent that happen to play in Division 2. So in recruiting, because of the caliber of what you asked for, I can't imagine that changes too much. But has the recruiting trail that you've been on, has there been more positives and maybe a difference where there may be some student athletes that we're looking at Division 1 and Division 2 that now LeMoyne's Division 1? There's more of a conversation. Have there been some kind of positive pieces that have happened in the recruiting trail on top of the positives you already have?
Yeah, so we're recruiting for women's lacrosse. Right now we're actually in like a shutdown. So,
Right.
the the kind of few months that we started, I would say we definitely saw a big uptake in interest. I felt like I was getting a lot more emails once the announcement came out. And then September 1st is our big date. So that, we're just a few weeks away from that. We're really trying to prepare and figure out what we need to be doing to get ready for that. But that's going to be, I think, where we really see is there a difference or not. Like you mentioned, we're always recruiting kids that maybe are a D1 level but wanted that D2 experience. I think we're still going to get a lot of those local kids that want to play at a high level but maybe don't want to go to like an ACC school like Syracuse. So I think in September we'll really figure that out. Just because we're in this waiting period right now, we can't really talk to kids at the moment. So I do think the incoming class, though, they were very excited. They didn't skip a beat. None of them hesitated to say, that they didn't want to do this. So I think for them and then our 24s who will be here next fall, again, same thing. None of them really were hesitating on the fact that we were moving to Division One. They were all really excited about the opportunity. So I think I think in terms of recruiting, it's going to continue. We're going to have more interest probably than we had in the past.
And when you talk about recruiting and kind of assembling everything together, you had the opportunity to do something really great and historic for this LeMoyne program, and that is the first full-time assistant gets to come on with Riley Donahue, also bringing Sarah Goodwin back to the team as a grad assistant and Adriana Nojame back to the team as well as a volunteer assistant coach. Assembling this staff together, bring me into these three terrific lacrosse players and people that are now joining your staff.
Sure. Well, we had some great candidates apply for the full-time assistant position. I think Riley has just some great experience at the Division One level. So you always, as a coach and a head coach, you want to bring in people that can support you and can give you something new. I'm never looking for someone to just come in and say yes to me all the time. So I think relying on her experience, especially when it comes to that Division One recruiting experience, that was pretty crucial in making that decision for her hire. Again, West Jenny grad, played at Syracuse, so knows the area, understands what it takes to play at the next level. So huge hire there. Sarah Goodwin finishing up her master's in education, so kind of a no-brainer. We've talked about her so much last year and just what she was doing for us on the field, but I think to come in as a transfer, to be an All-American and lead our team how she did, she's just such a positive person, and she's still working hard toward a degree. I think that's a great example for so many of our players and student athletes who are looking to pursue maybe a graduate degree or to possibly get into coaching. So excited to have her stick around a little bit longer. I wish I had her more than just a year, I can tell you that. So really pumped for that. And then Adriana is actually working at LeMoyne right now. So she has kind of a fellow internship kind of position that they created for her up in the business school. So she'll be volunteering, she'll be a little bit more on a limited basis, but just from a culture perspective, you talk about somebody that loves this school, is a legacy student, her family members, her grandparents, her dad all went here, another West Jenny grad, so just local, understands kind of the type of person that we need to bring in. And Adriana is a kid, if you look back in her career, she had to work hard for what she did. She started here not playing a whole lot. And then when I came in, we had meetings and we worked hard. We did individuals, and you saw that reflected in her play and what she contributed to our team over the last few seasons. So just another great role model, great example. I've known Adriana since she was probably about 13 years old, maybe 12 even. So, which again is something we've talked about. So I think just having that familiarity as we go into this new era, where there is going to be a lot of new, having some things that were consistent, having people that were bought in and understand what we're trying to do here, no matter the division, those were just really important factors going into all those hires.
And when you can extend your staff and when you can hire that first full-time assistant for you as a leader, just what that does. I mean, you and I have spoken about women's athletics. You and I have spoken about, lacrosse, and the importance of making sure that, we're on a level playing field. So being able to have this staff and a full-time assistant not only helps you, but do you feel like it's putting you in a place in women's athletics in a place of saying, yeah, like every team, no brainer, should have a staff, should have the support, should have the different ideas and whatnot? Because I know it's something that we've spoken about before in women's athletics, the importance of making sure that each sport is going to get an opportunity to excel and grow and expand together, not just one sport over the other.
Yeah, well, I think not so much to talk about us as leaders. I think all head coaches want more help, but I think it's the student athletes that really benefit, right? They're the ones that want the feedback. They want to have meetings and they want to do individual sessions. And if you don't have the staff to do that, you can't overextend yourself as one person. So I think that's really where it plays in, and where you find that if a men's coaching staff has those bodies and has those assistants, they're getting that extra help, where a women's staff who doesn't have those assistants isn't getting the extra help. So that's, I think, really who it benefits and who it affects mostly is those student athletes. And it's just trying to make sure that we're providing the same opportunity as their male counterparts. They want all to do all those same things. The girls want to compete just as much as the boys want to compete. So that's, I think, really where the importance comes in of spinning that back to, hey, how can we make sure the student athletes are getting the best experience? Well, give them more coaches and they'll be coached more. So, obviously, again, it helps all of us as a head coach to be able to delegate different tasks and duties. But at the end of the day, we know we're going to get it done no matter what. But just being able to help the student athletes more, I think, is the most important thing.
And you speak on here with Liz Beville, the head coach of the LeMoyne Dolphins women's lacrosse team, as we are in this Road to D1 series, the move to Division One, official July 1st, 2023, for all sports going into the NEC and men's lacrosse, waiting hopefully just a season or so in this independence. Knowing that when you talk about the student athlete and the experience of the student athlete, Bob Beretta, the AD at LeMoyne, and I sat down after the decision was made, and he said on the video flat out to the world, we are not sitting here complacent with no postseason. We have asked the NEC to give us an immediate opportunity to play in the postseason, at least in the conference, because the NCAA has to make their decisions over the entire country, but the NEC could make this decision. And so once everything was made, it was put in the contract that this would be visited. Student athletes, obviously, with the move initially, were upset at the fact that they couldn't play in the postseason, which is totally understandable. That changed with NEC Commissioner Noreen Morris, as well as the schools that were involved. Just what that means to you as a coach and means to these student athletes and to mental health, that they only have a certain amount of time that they're going to be playing in college. And now we know for sure, without doubt, that LeMoyne women's lacrosse and LeMoyne athletics in general has an opportunity to play in the NEC postseason for championships immediately.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, it just changes the mentality and of everything. I think we were kind of going into the year saying, hey, well, we'll do the best we can and we'll try to get better and we'll kind of dial into some other things, the academics a little bit more, maybe more community service, just trying to take advantage of some other opportunities, with the fact that knowing we couldn't compete. We still wanted to feel like we could accomplish something. Obviously, then they changed that, and that's big time. Now our seniors, instead of not being able to compete for a championship, they've got an opportunity to win 2 championships back to back at the conference level. So I think that, like you said, the mentality and kind of mental wellness aspect of it is huge, because it's already a big change. And so now that they can kind of, it's just different. You have to, as a coach, just spin it. It's just different teams we're playing, right? Nothing's like dramatically changing. We were still going to play teams. We were still going to compete. We were still going to go chase championships. Now it's just with different teams. So I think that the players are really excited. I know when I spoke with the captains kind of first about that news, that it was going to change for the better for us and that we were going to be able to compete. They were pretty fired up about that and excited, because I think, again, the mentality just changes completely. They're much more focused. They're eager to get back. I think they kind of didn't know how to feel. And then we went right into summer break too. So that was definitely difficult. But I think having that news come kind of on the front end of the summer was great. I know a lot of them have been playing this summer, trying to get ready. So they're definitely excited. We're excited. Unfortunate that the NCAA is still having those bans and transition years. I think the best thing I've been telling everybody, Stonehill's in the same spot as us right now. They unfortunately had to wait a year last year, but the best thing that could happen is that us and Stonehill make a conference championship. And, if they got to send the third place team to the NCAA, that's going to look pretty silly. So that's certainly our goal. And I've talked to Katie at Stonehill if that's what she wants to do too. So we've got something that we are chasing, and we're chasing something pretty big this year.
Yeah, and you bring up exactly, my thoughts when Merrimack, who
Mhm.
also came from the NE10 in Division Two and went to the NEC and transitioned to Division One and just finished up their fourth year of this hiatus of NCAA. And we see what Fairleigh Dickinson did in the men's basketball tournament to win as a 16 seed. And the team that beat them, Merrimack, what could they have done if Fairleigh Dickinson can beat Purdue and Merrimack can beat Fairleigh Dickinson? And I know it comes down to matchups and whatnot, but it's exactly that. And that got national coverage and it put Merrimack's logo everywhere. So, I mean, like you said, if you and Stonehill make it to the NEC championship and they're sending a third place team, the NCAA looks foolish in that sense. And, I think I don't really understand the rule. I mean, when you look at it, it doesn't make sense because, right, every school that's transitioning, reclassifying has to pay. You still have to train. You still have to do all these things. So you're coming in, you're helping the conference you're going into, you're spending money as a school, as an institution. So what's the holdup? I thought maybe they made this, archaic rule so that a team could transition and try to level up to the competition. But we've seen a lot of schools be able to level up immediately. And like you said, you're looking for big things. So I'm hoping that the NCAA can see that this rule, especially 4 years, is a bit much and kind of ridiculous. And in the constant realignment and reclassification, I don't see how keeping a team from playing in the postseason is going to stop. And Liz, I know that you don't really talk about yourself, but you've had a lot of success and in a short amount of time at LeMoyne, recruiting wise, as well as what you just did at LeMoyne. I mean, we're seeing a team that vies for the postseason in the NCAA consistently. And like you said, you're looking for big things now. So I'm hoping as a coach for you and all the coaches that we get to see a difference in this rule.
Yeah, appreciate it. Us too. Hope for the best. That's all we can do.
Yeah. So before I let you go here, Liz, I want to go back to Riley Donahue for a second. You said, I want an assistant coach to not just agree with me all the time, to not just be a yes person, but to actually, go back and forth and work together. Why do you feel that Riley, who obviously we know from West Jenny and we know from Syracuse and from coaching after that, she's been successful and she's obviously been in the spotlight of lacrosse. But what is it about Riley personally that makes you believe, hey, she's going to make me better, I'm going to make her better, and this is really going to give our student athletes what they need?
Sure. Well, I just think when you look back at what ECU did, obviously, her and Coach Barnes there, they did a great job kind of bringing that program to the forefront, was a newer program. And, I think what they did the last few years was just great. So I think that's when you look at kind of the track record of a team, right? And like you just said, we obviously had a great season last year, but it's a even playing field this year. It's brand new for us. And that's the way we've got to look at it. But she's just got a great passion for teaching the game. Her and her brothers have done a lot of stuff with the youth kids in the area and anywhere they've coached. And I think for us, that's just what we really need, is somebody who can be here more and do those individual sessions and kind of dial into one side of the ball. For the past few years, I've been a little bit more offensive minded. So that was intriguing to me as well, is that I'm going to actually switch a little bit more to the defensive end of the field. Riley will take over the offense. So having somebody who's confident enough to do that, Allie did a great job last year with our defensive unit. But we had a lot of returners too. So we're kind of building a whole new attack. As we lost, obviously Sarah's out of there, Jess Manili. So we've lost quite a bit on the attacking end. So I think for Riley to come in and be able to kind of start something new and fresh, and ultimately she'll probably pick that lineup, of who's going to start for us. It's just something that's refreshing. That's kind of the word that keeps coming to mind. Is we really needed somebody to come in here and give us kind of, we don't want to reinvent ourselves, but we want to give ourselves a new look. We want to compete at a different level. We have to do something different if we want to do that.
You switching over, like you said, running the offense, and now Riley going to take that over, and you switch to defense. How are you? What's the excitement for you about that challenge? I know like you said, you used the word refreshing, but
Yep.
shifting to defense for you and having that focus, just what excites you about that opportunity?
Sure. Well, I think it's a whole different group that I really haven't spent a lot of time with. As a head coach, you obviously work with everybody, but when you're always on one side of the field during drills and practice, you don't always get those little interactions with the players. So our defensive units, I felt like have always kind of had this great bond, and I'm like on the outside of it sometimes. So I'm excited to get to the chance to work with some of those players. Looking at my board over here, like a Lily LaCastro, for example. I really haven't coached her at all, because I've been on that offensive end. So I'm excited to get a chance to work with those players a little bit more one-on-one. Again, noted on just as on the offensive side, the defensive side, we lost a couple big players there in Savannah Fish and Taylor Reich. So trying to figure out who's going to fit into that mix. But it's just something different. I think all head coaches, you don't want to be stagnant. You don't want to just do the same thing year to year, because then you kind of lose a little bit. So for me, it's exciting to get over. If I've got to jump to the offense, I certainly will. But I think for me, I'm excited to kind of get to the other side of the ball just to challenge myself a little bit too, and just to give our defense some different looks.
Yeah, and we know that on that field, on Ted Grant Field, that right off of it, the concession stand that's being built, that was literally as soon as men's lacrosse finished the next
Yep.
day, they're erecting this thing so that we have restrooms there for everybody, a full-time concession stand there. What does that mean to you when we look at facilities and different things that are happening? Because Bob Beretta and I had spoken about well before Division One. He said, here's the plan of things we're working on. We're giving a
Mhm.
press box to softball. We're going to work on the dugouts for baseball. We're putting a concession stand and restrooms at Ted Grant Field for all the teams that play there. To know that there's going to be those additions for the fans, because you have so many people show up to these women's lacrosse games, whether it's on a Wednesday or a weekend. What does that mean to you that you're seeing LeMoyne College as an institution give to your program and make sure that there's more opportunities for a fan experience, and just, basically saying thank you to the people that come out there every single week?
Sure. I mean, I think it's always great. I tell people all the time, it's a good thing when you see construction on campus in the summer. So, any recruit that comes on and maybe we got to take a different pathway, I'm like, that's a good thing because there's construction going on. We were able to have a bunch of high school teams playing here this summer too. So they were able to see that construction going up as well. But it's just a great opportunity for the fans to be able to not have to walk all the way in the building. Now they can grab a snack out there. They can actually use the restroom out there. I think that'll actually draw more people into games. I know that, some of our grandparents, they wouldn't come to games because they knew if they had to go use the restroom, it was all the way inside. So I think it's just a great sign to see the school is investing into the athletics and putting facilities up. Certainly want to keep expanding from there, but I think this is a tremendous start for us.
And before I let you go in these final two pieces here with Liz Beville in the Road to D1 Series, LeMoyne Women's Lacrosse head coach. Liz, like you said, coming off a championship, seeing what you did in the NE10 in Division Two, I know that a national championship is always what the sights are set on, but now that you know that that door is officially closed with the
Mhm.
NE10, officially closed with Division Two, how do you reflect on that final chapter and what your team did?
Oh, good question. I don't know if I have done that at all yet. So I think that as coaches you have a good season, but you kind of put your best foot forward the next day as soon as that it's done. You might take a day or two. I definitely haven't dialed into the fact that the NCAA piece is kind of over for the time being. Because I'm trying to stay hopeful that it won't be, for especially as long as we've had it. But I think just looking back at last year, where we started the season, our fall ball was challenging. We had players, we had a lot of fifth years, and we had players that weren't around a lot in the fall. They had to come back in the spring. They had to earn their spots back. We had 23-year-olds and we had 18-year-olds on the team. So I'm just really proud of the team and what we accomplished. I mean, I think the biggest thing you can look at is the two teams we lost to in the regular season. Those are the two teams that were playing in the national championship game. So that definitely made me feel pretty proud. Ultimately, Pace ran away with the competition, but we still got that conference championship win over them. So that's big time. And, again, it hasn't really, I think, I haven't reflected back on that too much yet. I think that, things just happened so fast at the end of last year, the announcement with the transition, right before NCAA. So we kind of, had to just finish and then get ready to go for this next journey. So I'm sure I'll reflect on a little bit more down the road, but just really proud of what we were able to accomplish last year and excited to get the girls back to campus soon in a couple weeks.
Yeah, and as we step forward, knowing that this schedule is coming up, looking at the NEC, do you feel like, I mean, especially having teams in New York, but is this going to create more within conference of maybe some rivalries and maybe some exciting games because you're not necessarily going to have to travel as far? So when you look at the NEC and you look at some of those opportunities within it to get to Long Island, what your thoughts are on that? And then the second part is, can you sneak peek us into who we could see non-conference, because there's a lot of opportunities for some New York State rivalries now.
Sure. Yeah, I think the for women's lacrosse, the NEC footprint is still fairly big. It's pretty similar to the NE10. I'm not sure what kind of rivalries will come out of that. So we'll see on that one. I think obviously Adelphi was like the big one, but that's because we saw them so many times and we had to play them 3 times for the last 4 years that I was here. So, yeah. I'm not sure. I don't, maybe LIU will turn into that, but I'm really not positive. If I had to make a guess, I would probably say more of like a Stonehill, like somebody that was in the NE10 and also moved up. That's probably, but that they're not close by any means. So TBD on that one. Non-conference, I think you will have some quicker rivalries. Siena is on the schedule, Canisius, Niagara, UAlbany, Cal Berkeley is coming here. They owed a game to Cornell, so they'll be here. So that'll be kind of fun for us to play a West Coast team here. We'll certainly be trying to get back out there. I can tell you that. Well, that's we don't want to keep playing them here. We'd love to go out that way. And then University of Vermont. So we've got some great competitions. We're hitting a little bit of every conference. I think that's really, the ideal thing. We'd love to get like a St. Bonnie's on the schedule too. Again, just timing, we got who we could this year. But we'd love to have some more of those day trips definitely within our schedule, and then maybe get some more spring break trips where they are a little bit warmer, West Coast, maybe down south a little bit more. But again, these are schools that we would scrimmage in our fall competition seasons in the past. We competed well against them. So we feel really good about getting them on a schedule, and we feel like these are games that we can win. So, we're excited for these opportunities, these day trips. It won't be overnights. The girls can actually go to class all day, get a good night's sleep, get on a bus, come home, and not be getting home at, 11, 12 o'clock and having to go to an 8 a.m. class. So we're pretty excited about that. I think the schedule's shaping out nicely, and we'll see what happens with those rivalries. I'm not sure yet.
Well, definitely know that no matter what, with you as the head coach and with the staff that you put together, as well as the recruiting that we've seen and the level of competition, that LeMoyne women's lacrosse will be ready for this Division I as we step forward. Thanks for giving us a sneak peek, and let me know when Cal Berkeley says come over here, because I'll make a little road trip out to California myself. But thank you for everything that you do, Liz, truly, and in this community. And I know how much you have a passion for this sport and for, people here in the community and everything like we've talked about before that your dad's done as well. It's really a family affair, and you've built up lacrosse on the men's and women's side as a family. So thank you for that. Thank you for continuing to lead us into Division One, and thanks for spending some time today.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Dan.
All right, take care. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
See you. That coming here from Liz Beville on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. Appreciate having her here on the broadcast. Like I just said, the work that she's put forward for LeMoyne, her level of, what she demands and what she wants, that's, what makes me believe that this team will be ready, because she definitely does not shy away from competition. And I don't think I've ever seen her change her face at all. Whatever the team is that's coming up, she's locked in. She's ready to go. And those are the types of coaches that you need to step forward. So I'm excited about this. I'm excited about the staff that she's put together. Once again, congratulations to the first ever full-time assistant coach on the LeMoyne women's lacrosse staff, and that being Riley Donahue from West Genesee and then Syracuse. Big time shout out to Sarah Goodwin, who transferred in from Virginia Tech and played for LeMoyne last year and is going to be a grad assistant. And a big time shout out to Adriana Nojame, who I've known for a while as well, because I cover West Genesee athletics every single month at the Wildcat Sports Pub. And we've been doing that we're going into our 8th year of having West Genesee's Spotlight broadcast monthly at the Wildcat Sports Pub at 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. So I already got to cross paths with Adriana Nojame and obviously her family. So shout out to her for being a volunteer assistant coach and an alum of the LeMoyne program like Sarah Goodwin. So great staff, familiar faces. I love that Riley Donahue is here in this community and connecting to East Carolina. I cover East Carolina. I've covered them for a decade now inside of the American Athletic Conference. So, or I think almost a decade, because they might have come in the year after the American opened here. I think they did. So, to see Riley return to Central New York and to know her history with Syracuse and for her to be at LeMoyne, I think that that's a huge steal and a great get. So I'm excited about the staff. I'm excited about what Liz has already done. I'm excited about these student athletes. And if I know anything about lacrosse at LeMoyne on the men's and women's side, they compete, and I'm laughing at myself here because it's like they're going to get after it in Division One. And all the sports are. I've seen positives happen with men's soccer. I've seen positives happen with women's soccer. I've seen the growth and expansion of women's basketball with Mary Grimes and everything Gina Castelli did before that, winning the first ever NE10 tournament in the history of LeMoyne, which I think was a 23-year period at the time. Nate Champion and the staff that he's putting together and has put together, and the work that he's done to recruit and the games and things that are coming up here. Very excited for LeMoyne men's basketball. And then we look at swimming and diving. They've already gone up against Division I talent. And when I think about Adam Zakowski, again, he's just one of those people that locks right in. He is right there. No matter who the competition is, we're getting after it. And I love the dynamic of his team, because I got to sit down with some of the student athletes, and I thought that was a lot of fun. And just kind of learn about them and how they play games and they're creative, and it just seems like a really cool atmosphere. And then, we look to baseball. Baseball played the longest this year, well into the postseason, almost to the College World Series in their last trip in Division II as they return to Division I. They and women's lacrosse used to be Division I programs within LeMoyne when LeMoyne was a D2 institution, and you could have certain programs be in different divisions. And so, their return is exciting. And Scott Cassidy and the work that he's done with that team and just the history of LeMoyne baseball has been really, really amazing. And we know that, and we've honored that this year just a few months ago in our first 2 jerseys ever retired for, right there on the field. And obviously Coach Rockwell being an AD and then, coaching the team, all the great things that he's done. So to those players, those student athletes, some of them are back in heaven. We honor you. We appreciate you, and happy to have your jersey there retired on the field. And then we look at softball, and softball, some of the games that they've done last year, and some of the work that they put in was exciting for me to watch and see what Tracy Roman is doing and the level of competition that they're willing to play. My goodness. And then, you look beyond that and you say, okay, track and field, men's and women's cross country, and men's and women's track and field, and to see all the work that Robin Wheelis has put in, and his excitement and what's going on there. And then we look at golf, and I love, love my conversations when it comes to golf, because I have the opportunity to sit down with someone that is so incredibly passionate about the world of golf. And so when I get to have those opportunities on the men's and women's side with their head coach, who's the head coach of both, getting to speak with Joe Tesori, love my time with him because it goes well beyond sports. And then, I want to make sure that I don't miss anybody. And then tennis, men's and women's tennis, my goodness, Jeff Lonzak and the work that he's done, so exciting about, his passion. And he's been bringing in people from all over the world, and getting players, going down to Peru, going to Italy, and finding this talent, which has been incredible. So I'm really excited for that and their ability to constantly compete in postseason championship opportunities, both on the conference level and then expanding on to NCAA. And then volleyball, Susan Kim coming onto the team with her awesome history and road to where she's gotten to. So, when we look to the road to Division I, folks, this is exciting. And you've gotten to hear from coaches throughout these sports speaking on the road to D1, the exclusive series that we have here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of our Dolphin Dive, which is inside of our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with LeMoyne. So thank you to Liz for adding another chapter to our Road to D1 series, and that chapter focusing in on women's lacrosse and the excitement for the season. And breaking all those stories. Nobody has that. That's not out there right now. Siena, Canisius, Niagara, let's go. I love that. Vermont coming in. I mean, I think I really do appreciate it. I love when coaches share with me what's coming up here and all of these New York teams that they can play. Like she said, fall ball, we scrimmaged these teams. We did well against them. Now we get to actually put them on the schedule and see what we can be against these teams when it counts toward the record. So I'm excited to see it. Definitely looking forward to it. And again, appreciate Liz and all the coaches' time that have joined me here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We'll take a step aside for a fast break. We'll be back with more conversation to come. And I did get a question that came in, so let me address this before we take a step aside. Can you quickly explain again league status with LeMoyne men's lacrosse? Women will be competing in the NEC, but the men are independent. Yes, the men are independent. The only program at LeMoyne that's not in the NEC as of right now is men's lacrosse, and that is because they do not have enough schools for competition within that. So the member schools of the NEC, there's not enough programs that have there's not enough institutions that have men's lacrosse for it to be its own piece within the NEC. So the NEC is working on a plan for that. Obviously, you have to get creative. You look at full-time members, look at associate members. But and usually in a sport where there's not enough teams within the conference to compete in whatever sport that it may be, in this case, the NEC not having enough men's lacrosse programs within their membership that they currently have, you look to associate members. So you go and find other schools and you say, okay, they don't have a place to put their lacrosse team, so why don't we do this makeshift thing and put it together? So there is a plan that is being worked on by Noreen Morris of the NEC and her team, and there's a hope that in the not-too-distant future, men's lacrosse will have their place in the NEC. But as of right now, they're independent because there's not enough member schools in the NEC that have men's lacrosse as a sponsored sport. So that's left men's lacrosse independent, which means that they have to plan out their entire schedule, just like you would see with Notre Dame and in football, or UMass or UConn in football, same type of thing. So that's what LeMoyne men's lacrosse is doing. They're the only independent of all programs at LeMoyne currently, but there's hopes that will change if they can bring in some more membership, either full-time or associate members, that can join the NEC that have men's lacrosse sponsored, so that they can build an opportunity for lacrosse to truly be within the conference. So as of right now, they're not, which means that they can't compete for an NEC championship. But if the NEC brings in enough schools that sponsor lacrosse on the men's side, either as associate members or full-time members, then they can put together a conference from there, and then we can move forward. So the hope is that that happens, and hopefully sooner than later. But as of right now, men's lacrosse is going to be independent until that plan can be put in place. So stay tuned, I guess, is what I would say for that. But I appreciate the question, because obviously it gets confusing as to how LeMoyne is in the NEC and Division I, but LeMoyne men's lacrosse is in Division I, not in the NEC. So that is my way of explaining that to you, and hopefully it made sense. But we'll go on from here and we'll see what happens. We're going to take a step aside for a fast break on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We'll be back after this fast break, after you hear from our incredible partners in Central and Upstate New York, and we'll talk about some things that are going on as we get set for Blessings in Baseball in Hour 2. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there, and of course you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100, and also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout Central and Upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. This is a special message from 317 at Montgomery restaurant owner Joel Carpenter. Open Tuesday through Saturday for your dining pleasure on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York.
We wanted to be a part of the resurgence of Syracuse. We saw a lot of money being put into bringing people back downtown and thought that, we'd like to be a part of that. I love putting together a good dish where people see it first, they fall in love with it, and then it tastes just as good as it looks. We want to provide the best food in Syracuse that we possibly can, and we want you to leave here talking to your family, your friends about what you had to eat first and foremost, but also our service, and to walk out feeling like you're part of our family. I work out in the front of the house a lot, and I love walking to every single table, asking them how everything is, and people looking at me and smiling and saying, this is the most amazing short rib I've ever had. This is the most amazing filet I've ever had. And Donna is great. Sarah's amazing. Thank you for coming over and talking to us. And then them just being truly happy for the experience that they've gotten.
317 at Montgomery Restaurant, part of the fabric of downtown Syracuse, located on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York. Open Tuesday through Saturday for a unique and memorable dining experience. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, inside of Where Sports Meets Life. Appreciate you being here, hanging out with us, and thank you so much for being a part of the show. For those of you that are coming back with us from the break, you obviously heard from Liz Beville inside of MonPawsPopcorn.com's What's Poppin'. Hearing from Liz in our continuation of the Road to D1 series, speaking with the head coaches at LeMoyne College about the transition from Division II to Division I, and this being on the heels of Liz announcing her new staff with the first ever full-time assistant coach on the staff for women's lacrosse in Riley Donahue, who comes from West Genesee, then Syracuse, and most recently coaching at East Carolina University. The Pirates, a school that I've covered for almost a decade now, if not a decade now. So happy to have Riley Donahue back and love her connection to Syracuse and West Genny. Of course, Sarah Goodwin, grad assistant who transferred to LeMoyne from Virginia Tech. So we've already seen that Division I to Division II transfer, and now that LeMoyne's Division I, maybe some other pieces inside of the transfer portal can fall in that respect for the positive side for LeMoyne. And then with the volunteer assistant being Adriana Nojame, coming to us from West Genesee as well, where I met her and crossed paths with her, and now seeing her finish up her playing career and continuing on at LeMoyne on the staff as a volunteer assistant. So looking forward to everything that is to come with LeMoyne women's lacrosse as well as all athletics, and I truly thank the coaches for taking their time. Coming up in just a few moments, we're going to have Blessings in Baseball with my guy Dukes Knutson. It's where we talk about God, we talk about faith, we speak on the Tampa Bay Rays as he is their press box manager, and we also will get into Shohei Ohtani and the Major League Baseball trades and different things that have happened, because it's been an interesting world that we've been in. And to Greg, if you're listening here, I know Greg sends us a lot of messages throughout all of our shows, and we appreciate it. You can always feel free to comment. We had one of our most commented shows ever to start off the week on Monday, which is incredible. So thank you all that participated in our live feeds. You can comment by going to any one of our live feeds. So Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. If you go to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, you can comment in our comment section live, and I can see those and respond to them instantly. You can also comment on facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, and you can go to our internet streaming radio channel, go to wakeupcalldt.podbean.com, and you can jump into our live feed there and connect with us and give us your thoughts. So we welcome and we appreciate everybody that tunes in on any one of our live feeds. These are all international, so you can respond to them from literally anywhere in the world. You could be on vacation in Bali, and you can watch Wake Up Call and listen to Wake Up Call and respond to what we're talking about. So we appreciate everyone that's been with us in the air, been with us on a boat, been with us on vacation, and in in the classroom, make sure you pay attention to your teacher, but but in the classroom, on the fields and courts of life, when you got us on in the car too, so we appreciate that. And, every way that you've connected with us, we thank you so much for connecting with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. When you're with the kids, when you're by yourself, when you're getting food ready, when you're working out, whatever it may be, brushing your teeth, we appreciate you hanging out with Wake Up Call and making us a part of your week every week throughout the year, Monday through Friday, from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So many thanks to you for that. So, outside of that, jumping into baseball here, as we're going to be talking with Dukes in a second, I just wanted to go to the standings here for a moment because, some things change and some things stay the same. And, there are those teams that can kind of creep their way up, and there's those teams that can find a way to fall backward. And I'm really hoping that my Diamondbacks don't do that second part, the latter part, because falling backward to me, I'm in a place right now where I'm hoping that this team can figure things out. They were in first place, and we've now seen them slip down to third place in the NL West. They're 10 games back at the time we're talking now. The Dodgers are back in first place. I'm hoping the Diamondbacks can wake it up here because the Giants are in front of them from there. Milwaukee Brewers are still in first place of the NL Central, but the Chicago Cubs have now taken over the second spot over the Cincinnati Reds. The Pirates, who had started off with some positives here, they're 9 games back. Every team in this division is still well within it. The last team in the NL Central, the St. Louis Cardinals, are 11.5 games back. Pitt's 9. Cincinnati Reds and the Cubs are a game and a half, and in first place, Milwaukee Brewers. So that one's still wide open. It was wide open last year all the way down to the bitter end. So we'll see where it goes this year as Milwaukee is still at the top, but there's teams that are close enough. We'll see if they could stave them off. The Atlanta Braves took over the NL East, and they're still double-digit games ahead of anybody else in the division. 10.5 above the Phillies, 14 above the Marlins, 21 games above the Mets, 22.5 games above the Washington Nationals. The Braves are running away with this thing currently, and the Braves, coming off a World Series, looking mighty pretty. And then we look at the American League. Texas Rangers are still in first place of the AL West. The Astros are behind them by 3 games. Mariners having themselves a good season, 6.5 games back. They just got to host the All-Star Weekend, which has turned into a week. And then we have the Angels with Shohei Ohtani still, 11.5 games back. The Oakland Athletics, 36 games back. They're more games out of first place in the AL West than they have wins. They are more games back from first place in their division than wins they have. They're 36 games behind the first place Texas Rangers, and they have 32 wins. Their swan song of leaving Oakland is just... It's atrocious. It's just like not leaving quietly, leaving with like a massive pile of trash behind you. And I hope the best for the Oakland Athletics franchise because it just makes me sad. And I feel sad for Oakland because they've already lost the Raiders. So we look to the American League Central. Minnesota Twins are in first place. The Cleveland Guardians are in second place, 4.5 games. The Tigers are 9 games back. Chicago White Sox are 14 games back. Kansas City Royals, they're not having a great season, but that's been overshadowed by the Oakland Athletics because Kansas City's 23 games behind the Twins in the AL Central. In the AL East, the Orioles have taken first place and kept first place here for a little bit. They are in first place of the AL East over the Rays by 2 games, the Blue Jays by 7 games, the Yankees by 11.5, but the Yankees have been winning some games lately. And the Boston Red Sox, everybody's still in play. Boston's 12 games behind the first place Orioles in the AL East. So taking a look at these divisions, that's where we're at right now. We'll take a step aside and we'll have Dukes Knutson join us to talk baseball and faith right after this on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the Whole Frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942. And tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating. Find them at 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and all the time online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, you can order all throughout the country at maandpaspopcorn.com. And remember to get your tins, which have in-store half-price refills forever. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, available to you for fundraising and all of your events by calling 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you? This is a special message from Merritt Brady, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Watertown on 1290 Arsenal Street in Watertown, New York.
Chick-fil-A for me has always been about the people. I think it starts with the strength and leadership of the Cathy family. It's just amazing to see a family-run business reach the altitude that they have. Second mile service is something that we embodied at my previous business, and the ability to make people feel like they're the only person at your establishment, that you are there to serve them that day and looking for those extra ways to make them happy, to anticipate what they need next is what makes me tick. And I'm going to have so many opportunities at Chick-fil-A to do that. It's one of my favorite things to eat in the world. My favorite application question or interview question when I'm interviewing is when I get to, have you ever eaten at Chick-fil-A? And a smile hits both their ears. They can't even answer the question for a second. And when I see that, it's like, man, that's going to be a great hire. They already get it. They already feel it. They already know that we're different. The Chick-fil-A experience, it's a real thing. And then, of course, just our generosity and community involvement and making a positive impact in the lives of our team members, our guests, and the community in general, I think is really the secret sauce.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Proud to be here with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and bi-monthly every other Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I have the absolute pleasure and privilege of having my good friend here with me picture in picture, and that is Mr. Dukes Knutson, who joins me here, the press box manager of the Tampa Bay Rays, to speak on blessings and baseball. And we have a lot of stuff to get into because we've been off for a little bit here. The last show we were supposed to do a couple weeks ago, I was out of town covering the American Athletic Conference Football Media Days in Arlington, Texas, then on to Charlotte, North Carolina for the ACC kickoff and their Football Media Days, and then back home. And so Dukes and I were both busy running around. The Rays had an early game that day, so now we're back here for blessings in baseball. Dukes, how are you?
Blessings to you, my friend. Good to see you again.
Yeah, blessings to you as well. And I love that we get to do this. And I had somebody say to me, they're like, you talk about God on your show? Like basically like, really? Wow. Like you're not afraid? And I'm like, no. Why? Because when I die, I would like to have thanked the person that gave me everything that I could ever dream of en route to get there. And, are you sure it's okay for you to do it? Yeah, it's okay for me to do it. You're so brave. No, I'm just a believer. So, I mean, when you hear that, Dukes, when people come up to you and say, wow, Dukes, you practice your faith in a baseball stadium. You tell people in the media you believe in God. Are you crazy? Is it okay? Are you going to get fired? How do you answer that stuff in today's world of, you talk about God, aren't you afraid?
Dan, you know what? I've had kind of the opposite experience that I get positive feedback. I really don't have people coming up to me asking me, aren't you afraid of offending people or that? I often wear Christian T-shirts when I go to work at the Trop.
Yeah.
And I get so many compliments on those things. Oh, I love your shirt, and and so it's pretty cool to see that people react that way. You know, let's face it, we're talking about the most important thing in life. A baseball game is so much smaller than our eternal destiny and our relationship with the Lord, and so why should we be afraid of it? And I do think there's a lot of people out there like you're describing, though, who are afraid and they're hesitant to talk. I think there's a lot of people out there like you're.
Yeah.
So I think the more you do it, the more you feel comfortable with it, and especially like I say, when you get the reaction like I normally get, it's encouraging. So yeah, I love it. I love it.
You know, and I got to say that, you know, I do get both sides, you know, and I get a lot more positives and negatives. It's just one of those things that it's who, you know, it's who you are. It's what you do. I'm not somebody out there banging a drum on a street corner, because I don't think that that's what God wants, but I am a person that doesn't hide it. You know, I'm not out there saying, no, you know what, when I'm at work, I'm just going to do this, that, and whatever. I mean, it makes you who you, when people say, why do you do it? It's because it's who you are. Why would you spend a second of your life knowing that life is so fragile? Why would you spend a second of your life being anything other than your absolute and complete self? And being your absolute and complete self, to me, you know, I talk to God all day long. And I feel like in today's world, I'm praying about so many things, because there seems to be so many things going on, and so much pain and confusion and hate and whatnot, that I find myself praying to God and apologizing. I'm sorry that there's so many things that are going on here that I feel like I need to pray for. And, you know, but at the same time, there's so many blessings. There's so many good things. And so as much as I pray to God and say, hey, you know, I'm sorry, because I feel like I'm bringing you so much here, because I'm trying to feel for this world, and I don't want to leave anybody out. But at the same time, there's so many awesome blessings. You wake up in the morning, that's a blessing. I see my dog, that's a blessing. I get to talk to Dukes, that's a blessing. I get to sit in my studio, in my company, that's a blessing. And when you get to have all of these interactions and these moments, like I'm excited today, Brian and Stratton College of Syracuse, that we have an exclusive partnership with. They got a big event going on today, and they invited me to it like a month plus in advance, and I can't wait to go to that thing. I can't wait to see the students. I can't wait to see the coaches and sit down and relax. And, you know, they might think like, oh, you'll do a drive-by, right? You'll come in for a half an hour, show your face, wave, shake hands, and leave. No, I'm going to sit there. I'm going to hang out. I want to get involved, because Dukes, there are so many things going on in life, but at the same time, there's so many good things going on. And I wanted the Tampa Bay Rays, obviously, when I came down there, I wanted to see them win. I wanted to see the fans get excited. But what I was most excited about was I get to walk back into the arena. I get to hug one of my good friends. And I honestly felt like no time had gone in between. I felt like I somehow jumped in a DeLorean, Doc Brown and Marty McFly'd myself all the way back to that first time. And it's a beautiful thing to like look to my left and to see my buddy Dukes just a couple seats down, you know, and it's been a long time. But when you get to have the opportunity to do things that mean so much to you, and they're not just memories, you get to do them again. I feel like there's so many blessings, including blessings like that for me, that we can't shy away from realizing just waking up is a blessing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one thing you're hinting at, Dan, is your mindset. I think sometimes we need to adjust our mindsets. For example, I met Monday night with several of the Rays minor league ball players at our baseball chapel meeting. And these young baseball players, as they enter into their professional career, they're thinking of themselves, number one, as a professional baseball player.
Yeah.
And I said, no. The truth is, you are a Christian who happens to play baseball. Just like Dan, you are a Christian who happens to have your own business. I'm a Christian who happens to work at the Tropicana Field. But when we set our mindset on being a Christian, our relationship with God is number one.
Yeah.
I think it changes things and how we look at everything. It changes our priorities and our perspective on life in general.
Yeah, I think when you know that's it's not just on Sundays, it's not just when it's convenient, it's not just when you need something. God's not unintelligent by any stretch of the imagination, quite the opposite. So, God knows, hey, you come to me every time you need something. But do you come to me to say thank you? Do you come to me and just say hello? And, I feel like when you have God as your best friend, I drive in my car and I always look to my passenger seat, and sometimes I put my hand out, and I just because I just need it. Just hold my hand, just put your hand on my shoulder. Just let me know you're here. Or I'm listening to a really good song. And see, the thing is, like, because my relationship with God's so important to me, I feel like I can see him there, and I'll turn and I'll look there and I'll be bopping out to a song, and I feel like I could just see him shaking his head and laughing and being like, my kid's having a good time, and I feel like when God has a sense of humor, and God like just leaves you these little nuggets and does these things, there's so much beauty in it. And I wanted to get to something when we're talking about this, Blessings of Baseball with Dukes Knutson here on Wake Up Call. There was an opportunity that I had at something that I didn't take. And people would say, Dan, that's weird. You always take opportunities, but you got to listen to why I didn't take it. So in my career as a broadcaster, I've had this very ironic situation where people in the media have tried to push me and scare me into quitting my job, but at the same time steal my work. Which makes me say, if I'm putting food on my table and your table, if I actually left, who would feed your family? So I've had to deal with people who disrespect me behind my back, to my face, and then use my work as their own at the same time. So something happened in that respect last week, and I thought to myself, I could go out publicly and I could say that my work was stolen. I can go out publicly and I can say that, in some other parallel universe, I must get credit for my work because I don't here. And I paused and I didn't send it. And I'm not saying it today so that I can send it in a way. I'm saying it today by saying, I thought about it and I thought to myself, I know what I did. God knows what I did. And if I, even in a comedic way, call somebody out about what they've done wrong, how does that show that I have a loving heart and I'm a loving person? So I took a step back and I didn't do it. And I'd love to get your thoughts on that, Dukes, or any time that you've had that in your life where somebody did you wrong, that something's 100% wrong, and you want to voice it. But then you look at God and you pull back and you say, no, God, because that's not who you made me to be.
Well, you hit on I think a really important biblical principle, and that's in Matthew. Jesus said, take the speck out of your own eye before you try to take it out of the other person's eye. And if we would just pause and think of how we might offend others, how we might be wronging other people, rather than always being critical of other people. Again, it goes back to that changing perspective. And for me, oftentimes that becomes be slow to speak. Slow to speak. Think about what you're saying, and does it have to be said? You may have had the same experience, but my parents always taught me, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good philosophy to follow, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. And it's funny because I called my parents when I was in this moment of like, I'm going to say something. This is ridiculous. This is like the 900th time that this has happened. I'm sick of it. I called my mom and I called my dad. And the funny thing is, normally they answer. They didn't answer. And I knew well enough, like, I was like, you called your parents because you know the right thing to do. You know that they were going to tell you the right thing to do. And when we talked later on that day, I was like, I didn't even have to hear your voice to know, like, don't do that. And you know, and so even when you're right, even when you know, like, hey, this was wrong, it just, I mean, it puts a pit in my stomach today to even think about that. And you have to get to a point, it's hard, but you have to get to a point in your life where even when people do you wrong, and even when the facts are on your side, you have to just let God be God and put your ego to the side and stop demanding that everyone knows you did this right and everybody knows that it was yours and everybody knows this and that. I feel like I had to get to a point, and it's a work in progress every day, but to get to a point where you say to yourself, yes, I know I'm right. Yes, I know this was wrong. This is clear as day, but what is more important to me? Getting credit and pumping my chest or serving my God? Because if I serve my God, I know he's going to get me in the right situation. And it's just, you just have to shed your ego.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything more to add to that. You said it well. It's you know, that's again part of the Christian lifestyle is putting ourselves below others. Joy, Jesus first, others second, and ourselves, yourself third. But that's not the way our culture looks at it. You know, you're number one. Take care of yourself. So speak up for yourself. And there are times when you do have to speak up.
Yeah.
You know, granted, but it can be done in a gentle way. Gentleness is one of the fruit of the Spirit. Kindness is one of the fruit of the Spirit. But I think in many more cases than not, it's probably best just not to say. It probably doesn't accomplish any good.
No. And my thing was, like, if I know what they did, they obviously know what they did. They don't need me to tell them what they did because they know what they did. And so, you know, it's like, what do you get from saying to someone, hey, you stole this? They know that they stole it. So, you know, I mean, that it's not a not sticking up for yourself. I want to let people know that today. It's just, I would basically be telling those people, I know exactly what you did. And they know what they did. And they chose to do it. And let them take that up with their God. But with me, I just feel that pointing out somebody's sin or wrongdoing, you know, that's what they chose to do. That's their life. Am I perfect? No. You know, and they always, what do they say in the Our Father that I have to think about all the time? Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespassed against us. You know, forgive us for what we've done wrong, God, but forgive us the exact same way that we forgive other people. Yeah. And so if we don't forgive other people, don't forgive us. If we forgive them with stipulations, then forgive us with stipulations. If we forgive them to their face, but really not behind their back, then do that to us too. And it's just not the right thing to do. So, I mean, you learn lessons every single day, and it's hard. It's hard. It gets frustrating. You know, the human being in you is like, man, there's things that are wrong in society, and I'm just sick of them. But pointing out somebody's wrong doesn't make what they did right. And most of the time they know that it's wrong. And I think that that's a hard thing, Dukes, is when somebody does something hurtful to you and you haven't done anything to them. We've talked about that before. It's so hard to know how to react to someone that you've met with love, and one day they meet you with the opposite, and there was nothing that happened in between, and you don't know what to do. And so I just lean on, just even in the tough moments, find a way to be nice.
Yeah, and I've learned in my faith journey, Dan, that we meaning Christians, we have a different world view than non-Christians.
Yeah.
And when we're dealing with somebody who may have wronged us, usually we don't know where they're coming from. Do they have a faith? Do they believe in our Christian principles? And so we see the world so differently, and that's why I think it's good advice to be very slow to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, when you talked about the Lord's Prayer, I don't know, this is just kind of a thing with me, and I certainly I love the Lord's Prayer. Obviously, Jesus taught us to it; it's important. But when we say, "Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us," that kind of bothers me. It's like if I was going to teach you, for example, how to field a ground ball.
Yeah.
I might say it. I said, Dan, now do it as I do it. And I'm going to show you how to do it. Dan, do it as I do it. And when we say the Lord's Prayer, I don't like it. It kind of bothers me when we say, Lord, forgive as I forgive. Do it like I do. To me, it should be the other way around. I want to forgive like you forgive, Lord. And so when I say the Lord's Prayer, I always say, forgive us our trespasses, and may I forgive as you forgive. Again, it's such a little thing, but it's so easy, I think, to recite the Lord's Prayer. And I remember several years ago when that first started bothering me.
Yeah.
Why am I saying, Lord, you forgive as I forgive? To me, that made no sense. And so, I'm not going to try to change the world, I guess, but I'm gonna say it differently that is more meaningful to me. Well, I don't know if that makes sense or not.
No, it is, and it's funny that you say that because it brings up two things here on Blessings in Baseball with Dukes and myself, DT, speaking on blessings and baseball. Simple as that. So here on Wake Up Call, it's funny that you say that because I understand what you're saying. And when I hear it, it's a check. It's like a gut check for me. It's like, God, forgive me the way that I forgive other people, which I think is a lesson. It's saying, like, if I don't, like I said, if I don't forgive, or if I forgive with stipulations, it's almost asking God, like, punish me if I do not live up to what you ask of me. So it's saying what you're saying, but it's saying it like in a different angle, but it's saying the same thing. It's saying, God, forgive me the way you forgive. And it is what you're saying, teach us to forgive the way you do it. And the way that it's written, it's saying, if we don't forgive the way that you do it, then punish us for that. It's that gut check of, may we aspire to be what you ask us to be and not to just be the bare minimum or be something else. So I think that the way that it's written, is a way of saying, God, may we do it the way that you do it or else. And then you say it in a different way where it's like, teach us how to do it your way. I think it's interesting that you say you adjust it, because when I say the Hail Mary, or I'm sorry, when I say the Our Father, actually when I say the Hail Mary and the Our Father, I say please, because I feel like when I say them, I feel like there's this like expectation of, God, do this for me. Give me my bread. Forgive my sins. So when I'm saying it and I'm in church, I take a second or a millisecond longer than other people, because I'll say, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Please give us this day our daily bread. Please forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And please lead us not into temptation, but please deliver us from every evil. Because I got to a point in my life, like you did, where I was like, I'm reciting this because I learned it and I've been to church all my life. But I feel like the way that we say this is demanding God to do something, and I don't feel right doing that. So I started to institute, please, Mary, please pray for us sinners. And so I just added that word because I felt very strange saying to Mary and to God, hey, you know what? I don't care what you're doing right now. You need to do this for me, and you need to do that for me. So I just added please, which is, kind of like what you said. It's speaking to God and trying to give God even more reverence and more respect than maybe what we're used to reciting.
Yeah, and I think the important thing, and you're bringing it out very well, is the intent. What is the intent of what we're saying? I'm concerned that when we keep reciting the same prayer, like the Lord's Prayer, over and over and over and over, it loses its meaning. And I would challenge all your listeners of faith who do pray to, if you're reciting the Lord's Prayer or whatever, know what you're saying. And it's just like I said, when I said, forgive as we forgive, to me, I interpreted it different maybe than you, differently. But I adjusted it so that now it's saying to me now what I believe.
Yeah.
And I guess I don't want to harp too much on this, but the same thing is true with the next part of the Lord's Prayer when it says, lead us not into temptation. That's always bothered me, Dan, because the Lord doesn't tempt us. Satan tempts us. So why am I asking the Lord not to lead me into temptation? He doesn't. So again, when I say the Lord's Prayer, to make it more meaningful to me, I always say, protect me from temptation.
I knew you were going to say that. Because
reading my mind.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is because, like you said, God doesn't lead you to temptation. The devil does. So you ask God to protect you from the devil, protect you from evil works, protect you from the nonsense of life. And that, yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense. So I think, like you said, when we get into reciting, as a kid, I'd look around and it kind of just sounded like everybody was hypnotized and I have to say these words and I have to say these words. But are you living the words you're saying? Because my prayers to God 99.9% of the time are not reciting a prayer. It's a conversation. It's me talking and then listening, sitting. My prayers are they might take an hour, they might take 15 minutes, but I talk and I feel. And when I feel things, I let things go longer, or I let them, end here. I go with what I vibe, because I really feel like I can feel God going, yeah. No, bring that back. Let's talk about this more. And I feel like I can hear that. I feel like I can feel that kind of, I got you, okay? Or cry about it, Daniel, or ask me about this. Dig deeper. You're almost there. There's times where I pray where God's like, yeah, but keep going. I need you to break through this. I need you to get there. And when you're reciting something, you can get lost in just saying these words, which Monsignor Yannick, who's now back up in heaven, God bless him, miss you, he said, we're going to break down the Lord's Prayer in church. And this was many, many years ago. St. Daniel's Church I grew up in. And he said, I want you to do it. And I said, why did you pick me? He's like, I want you to do this with me. So he plays God in the conversation, and I play man, and he says, say the Lord's Prayer, and I start saying it in pieces, and he stops me and says, do you know what that means?
There you go.
So, our Father who art in heaven, okay, God up in heaven, hallowed be thy name. And he'll say, do you know what hallowed means? And it means holy be thy name. So now when I say it, I think about that. Like every time I say the Our Father, I think about that every time, since he taught me over a decade ago. Hallowed be thy name.
That's exactly what, the point I was trying to make is that we need to think about what we're saying and not just keep, like you said earlier, just keep repeating words. Yeah. And that's why, it came a time in my life when I was repeating, lead us not into temptation. I had to stop and say, wait a minute. What am I saying? What does this mean? Yeah. And I wasn't comfortable with continuing saying, lead me not into temptation. So I made an adjustment that fits me.
Yeah.
Now we're all different. So we all have to find our own But what you're saying, Dan, is what's the meaning behind it? Understand that. That's what's important.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk to people, when you talk to your dog, you ask your dog to do something. When you're talking to someone, you're speaking with meaning. You're speaking with purpose behind your words. So why would you speak to God without meaning when you speak to people who are under God with meaning? And that to me is really what it is like, if you're going to talk to the highest of the high and you don't know what you mean and you don't know what you're saying, then I feel like God would rather you reflect and come back. Because if I'm having a conversation, if I need to get something done, Dukes, I have had conversations in the last week, 2 weeks, week and a half, whatever, with people that I feel like were just ridiculous conversations. Things that didn't need to be reviewed again, things that didn't need to go over again, things that have been done for years, things that have been set up. As the way that I work is, when you set something up and you build a bridge, you move on, you build another one, you move on, you build another one. You shouldn't have to come back to something that you didn't damage and have to figure it out, have to go through it, have to reprove, have to do all this stuff. But those things happen, and I found myself saying, 2 weeks ago, I'm traveling the country. I'm having a fantastic time, and I felt like I had earned respect over the years, which I appreciate. I don't need it, but I appreciate it. I come home, and I'm answering emails that I think were just unnecessary, messages that are unnecessary, trying to make sure people are doing things that they're supposed to be doing, and going through that, I said to myself, wow, this is annoying, all the way up until yesterday with my dad. And now while I'm saying it, I'm thinking to myself, that's God. God is like, yeah, I set y'all up. I told you what to do. And I got to keep coming back and having conversations with you about things that I thought we figured out 15 years ago. And I thought we did this. And so to me, it's like, why do you have to deal with things when you didn't do anything to cause them, when you already proved yourself, when you already got it done, when it's already together? When you paint your house and it's done, you don't come back and paint it a little bit 3 days later and paint it a little bit. When the house is done, you're not painting here, because then you're going to have polka dots all over your house. So to me, it was like, why am I coming back and repainting something that's painted? But now that I'm saying it out loud, I'm thinking to myself, doesn't God do that with us every day? I told y'all what to do. Why do I have to keep telling you? And so now I'm realizing that my little mundane problems, God deals with on an exponential scale all the time, of going, didn't we talk about this? Didn't we fix this? Didn't we have this set and ready to go? God spent over 2,000 years talking to humanity, saying, I told you what to do. You know what happens when you don't. And yet here we are. So now I'm realizing right now, as I feel a hand on my shoulder, that God's going, yeah, so you're complaining that you had to do my job on a minuscule scale for a week and a half? Poor you, Dan. So that's that. I don't know. I said it out loud, and that's what I just heard.
Yeah. Prayer is such an interesting topic, and such an interesting component of the Christian life. And as I developed my relationship with Christ, I realized how important it is. I mean, if you want to liken it to a marriage, the two most important ingredients to a good marriage, in my opinion, are communication and time. You have to spend time together, and you have to communicate on a level that is so different than your communication with anybody else. And that's what I want with God in my prayer life. And 1 Thessalonians 5:17 says we're supposed to be praying continually.
Yeah.
And you've said it a couple times today that, you're praying constantly throughout the day. And I do likewise. But then there are also times when, if you were going to have if a husband was going to have a serious conversation with his wife about, a major life issue, you wouldn't bring it up during the second quarter of a football game. That's not the time or place to do that. And here's an example. Last week, I had a friend of mine who had brain surgery, cancer, and I found out this was out of state from where I live in Florida, and so I found out when the surgery was, and at that same hour that she was undergoing this brain surgery, I went to a Catholic church downtown Sarasota, and I sat in that church. It was just me and the Lord, but it set an atmosphere to have a serious conversation. I like you, I pray often here in my house, or I have a prayer walk I do every day, and at Tropicana Field, I have those conversations, but then there was this time that said, hey, this is a little bit more serious now. And so I wanted to set the atmosphere for that conversation. But it's enhanced my prayer life when we set the right time and place for these conversations with the Lord.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, there's things you can't answer, but I heard something in church, not this Sunday, but last Sunday, and it just hit me like this could be the thing that can get me to stop worrying. And I'm still learning it. It's only 3 words, but I want to get your thoughts on it. We were told in church the notion of worrying is disobedience, because faith is what you have in God. You don't worry in God. You don't fear in God. You have the faith that God will. Not that God can, but that God is there, and that God will be there, and that God's never going to not be there. And so worrying is disobedience. Fretting over something, complaining over something, wondering why did people steal my work, wondering why do I have to reapply to something that I've applied to a million times. It was God saying, what do you do with this energy, Daniel? When you worry and you fear, it physically debilitates you, it mentally exhausts you, it emotionally stresses you. Your worrying does nothing. Worrying has never solved a problem on this planet ever. So when I went to church and I heard 3 words, worrying is disobedience. You are being disobedient to the Lord just by worrying. It made me sit there and think maybe that's the thing I needed to hear, coupled with other things, to get me over the hump of allowing stress in my life. And I would love to get your thoughts.
Well, my initial reaction is I'll use 3 words too from Matthew chapter 6. Very clearly it says, do not worry. So obviously worry is disobedience.
Yeah.
The command is do not worry. Now, that being said, who among us doesn't worry about something? And now I'm going back to a principle. I've mentioned it a couple times on your show here. Anybody who chooses to live the Christian lifestyle is choosing the most difficult lifestyle you could possibly choose to live. And we are going to fail often. That's why it says in Romans that we've all sinned. We all fall short. So do not worry is the command, but most of us do fall short in that. Personally, I think I've got a pretty good grasp on this one. I don't think I worry a lot about too much. Yeah. And I think what has helped me is just, again, that mindset, that realization that, and this kind of relates to Ecclesiastes, that in the grand scheme of things, this is pretty meaningless. Why am I worrying?
Yeah.
I should be focused on the things of heaven, on eternity. I need to be focused on, how am I doing in my road to heaven? And whether we win a game tonight or not, pretty small in the grand scheme of things. Now, I'll go 1987 and 1991. I was blessed both years to be in attendance at the 7th game of the World Series in Minnesota. And you don't think there was anxiety? There was worry. Yeah, I felt it. But again, look back on it now, pretty meaningless,
Yeah.
When I think of what lies ahead, and I want to direct my thoughts, my efforts towards eternal things, way more than the things of here on earth. And I realize, and I'm as guilty as anybody, I realize that is a very difficult thing to do in our society, our culture. And so it's something we have to fight, and Satan is going to try to steer us away from eternal thoughts as much as he can.
Yeah, and he ain't going to win. So that coming here, blessings in baseball here with Dukes Knutson, myself, Dan Tortora, hanging out with you. You brought up baseball here. You brought up worrying about what could happen. Well, the Los Angeles Angels have a guy named Shohei Ohtani. He is...
Who? Okay. Yeah, I have heard of him.
Yeah, Ohtani. Yeah. He's like a prospect. He's pretty good. And nobody's played like him. The comparison that anybody's given is Babe Ruth, because Babe Ruth pitched and hit, but he's a better pitcher than Babe Ruth. So we look at Shohei Ohtani, the enigma that he is, the universal DH being finally brought into baseball. However, there's a Shohei Ohtani rule. If you have a pitcher that's so good at hitting, you don't have to have a DH. You can let that guy hit because of how good Shohei Ohtani is. And baseball knew, if we put this universal DH thing in and Shohei Ohtani can't hit the ball, we're not going to sell tickets. We're not going to make those TV ratings as high as they can be. So Shohei Ohtani passes the August 1st trade deadline, which is at 6 p.m. Eastern time that day. With that passing, Shohei Ohtani will be a free agent at the end of this season. What are your thoughts on Shohei Ohtani becoming the highest paid player ever? And do you believe that he could stay an Angel? Because I have a list of temporary suitors that I thought would have worked in a trade. Tampa Bay Rays, Baltimore Orioles, Arizona Diamondbacks. I had a bunch of them on that list. But then I have the long-term suitors. The Texas Rangers, the Los Angeles Dodgers, maybe the Angels, the Yankees, the Mets. What do you think about Shohei Ohtani passing the trade deadline and now knowing that if the Angels don't keep him, they're going to lose one of the greatest players in the history of baseball for absolutely nothing in return?
You might not like my response here, Dan. I hardly give any of that an ounce of thought.
Okay.
Because there are so many factors that you and I have no clue. Number one, what does Shohei Ohtani want to do?
Right.
He may love living where he is in LA. He may have such a desire to stay where he is. We don't know. He may want to go to the glamour of New York, or we just don't know what he's thinking. We don't know what any other team is going to entice him with. I keep hearing figures, now it's over 600 million the latest figure I heard. And, and here's what I think about it, Dan. I think it's sinful. To be offering him, and not just him, sports figures in general, making all these millions of dollars. It's in my Christian biblical view, this is so wrong when we've got so much poverty in the world, and there's a church I know of right now that just announced they're going to build an $8 million addition to their church because they're growing.
Yeah.
And I get that. But at the same time, 5 miles from this church, there's a homeless camp.
Yeah.
Several, I don't know how many, but probably hundreds of homeless people. And there's something that rubs me the wrong way. We're willing to spend $8 million on building a new building, but we can't help take care of the poor.
Yeah.
Well, what did Jesus ask us to do? Jesus asked us to take care of the poor. He didn't ask us to build these huge mega churches. So there's we're kind of going back to what I was saying earlier about the mindset, how we view things differently.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not going to change the world. I'm not going to change Shohei Ohtani's free agency situation. But to me, it's almost sad. It's almost sad that we're bidding with these millions and millions of dollars. Now we're talking about $500 million.
Yeah.
For his services, and so I don't know what's going to happen. I hear MLB radio and stuff. Obviously the Angels are trying to keep him, but it's the control is in his hands.
Yeah. Well, and you brought it up. How much money is too much money, but I've been talking about it with conference realignment for years now, and heavily these last few days of, okay, you're in the Big 12, you're Oklahoma and Texas, you leave to go to the SEC. Well, we're going to make more money. But how much is, at what point, well, we need this for the facilities, we need to do this, we need it. Do you need it? You want it. Yeah. You want a new facility. But you just built one.
But that's kind of the sinful human nature. Right. We always want more.
And looking at that, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's, Dukes, it's the ACC and people saying in the media, well, the ACC can't keep up because the ACC is only giving their teams $30 million a year, and this conference is given 57, and this conference is given 60. So if they're only given 30 or they're given 40, look at this. Each team gets $41 million a year. They don't get 57. What are they going to do without the $16 million? If I had $41 million coming into me, I'll figure out a way to use it. But my thing is, most people in their lifetime will never see $1 million cumulatively over their entire lifespan. And we're talking about people that are going to Pat Mahomes $50 million a year. And when not that this has happened a lot publicly, but in the times where an athlete has said, how am I supposed to afford my life without this money? And I'm sitting here going, if you made $1 million a year, you make more in 365 days than most people in their lifetime. If you make 12, why isn't it 40? If you make 40, why isn't it 80? But the reality of the fact is, once we start getting into million Dukes, I think we can all survive.
Yeah, I sure could. And when Eduardo Rodriguez, the Tigers, he got ripped in the media because apparently the Tigers and the Dodgers had a trade worked out at the deadline, and he had a no trade clause in his contract, and he exercised it. Yeah, and he balked at the trade, and he wanted to stay in Detroit. And I read his response, and he wanted to stay there because he said, my family is comfortable here. We like it here. And I just have so much respect for him for publicly saying that. My family is what's important. It's not how much money I can make. It's my family that's important. And that's why I'm turning this trade down. I'm exercising my no trade clause. And yet the media got all over him for, it hurt the Tigers, it hurt the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And well, that's not what it's about.
Yeah, it was like it's his decision, and that's the thing that I don't understand, and that's why as a broadcaster, there's a to me, I feel like people turn a mic on, especially nowadays, but people turn a mic on and they feel like it gives them some right to say anything, and they hide behind freedom of speech. Well, I have the freedom to say whatever I want in this country. Freedom of speech is not freedom of ignorance. It's not freedom of naivety. It's not freedom to be a jerk. It's not freedom to be disrespectful. It's not the freedom to be harmful. It's the freedom to speak, but people hide behind it with all these clauses. Oh, well, I can say whatever I want, and who's going to stop me because I have the freedom of speech? Well, as a broadcaster, there's things I don't agree with, but I tell people all the time on the show, we don't personally attack. I might use as an example and say, okay, like I'll joke around about Aaron Rodgers. And I'll say, Aaron Rodgers going to a cabin and using psychedelic drugs, and that helped him figure out he wanted to be a New York Jet. Like, that is just weird to me. But, so, I mean, I'll joke about stuff. I joke about Brett Favre. Whenever I talked about him, I'd have the Rascal Flatts song come on that says he ain't the leaving kind because he would never retire. So we have fun with stuff. But the reality of it all is I never, ever want to personally attack somebody because I don't want to be personally attacked. And I've never intended to if anybody's felt that way. That's not what you get in rock jock radio. And it's in people wanting to attack, like you said, attack this player. And the reality of it all is you don't know. And I'll make opinions about stuff and about conferences and this and that. And why did they need more money? And this doesn't make sense. But in the reality of it all, at the end of the day and at the beginning of the day and at the middle of the day, since I don't like just saying at the end of the day because why just at the end of the day? You have to understand, like you said, you don't know the inner workings of any human being. Even if you're the closest person to them, you don't know what they're thinking at any given time. People are speaking for Shohei. Well, Shohei's out in LA. There's a big population of people that have the same nationality as him, so he's going to want to stay there. Well, can we not argue that that's the same in New York? And okay, so if he's in LA, why do you think he's going to the Dodgers when they're both in the same city and he could just stay with the Angels? Well, he wants to win a championship. How do you know that? I mean, yeah, he wants to win a championship, but do you really know he wants to be a Dodger? Well, the Mets are going to get him because the Mets have the most money. What if he doesn't want to go to that franchise? It's, I can prognosticate, which is, what I do here, and give my opinions and my thoughts, but I don't know, and nobody does, what Shohei Ohtani gets down on his knees and prays to God for if he chooses to do that. What he says out loud to himself in bed. What he calls up his loved ones and says, this is what I'm thinking. You don't know where he's at. What I know from this situation is I feel bad for the Angels in the sense of you don't want to let this guy go. And again, we don't know this conversation. If the Angels said, hey, Shohei, we're going to trade you if you don't want to be here, and then Shohei turns around and goes, well, I didn't say that. Now, if Shohei has said to the Angels, I don't know if I want to leave, it's not a definite that I want to leave, then I can understand them keeping him. If Shohei turned around and said, hey, I'm jumping into free agency, I've had a great ride here with you guys, I can't promise you anything, I don't know. I can understand the Angels making a move if they thought we're going to lose this guy because they could have traded him for half a team. But this is where I feel bad. If he ends up leaving, then the Angels have this once-in-a-lifetime arguable player, and then you don't get anything for him. But if Shohei has said to them, you're not out of this thing, you're a very viable place for me to be, then we're having another conversation. And nobody knows that, even if they think they know that, unless he's told them that, and even then he could change his mind. But if Shohei told the Angels, there's no definite that I'm leaving, then it makes sense why they kept him. I just feel bad, Dukes, if he ends up walking away, this Angels team can't get to the playoffs with him. I don't know where they're going to be without him.
Well, I wish I was counting how many times you used the word if.
Yeah.
And that just reinforces what I said at the beginning. I was ill-equipped ill prepared to answer your original question. What do I think about Shohei Ohtani's situation? I don't know. I don't know. And we can have as many ifs as we want, and we still don't know.
Yeah.
You say you feel sorry for the Angels. Let's say he does leave and signs with the Mariners. Well, are you happy for the Mariners, or are you sad for the Angels?
Both.
Both. Yeah. And the fact is, we're talking about Shohei Ohtani, who's obviously the high profile case, but isn't this what every team goes through with every free agent? Yeah. We'd like to keep you, but it's in your hands. We don't know what you're going to do. That's the way free agency works. No system is perfect. There's always going to be somebody disappointed and somebody who is very happy. Yeah. Like I say, there's flaws in every system, but apparently this is the best system we have right now. To be honest, Dan, I guess I'm not going to feel sorry for any major league team because they're all making millions of dollars. Isn't that what they're trying to do? The Angels aren't going to go bankrupt if they lose Shohei Ohtani. Yeah. So I understand from a fan point of view. I want to keep the players who I have come to support, I'm loyal to, and I would like their loyalty to be reciprocated. Yeah. But again, that's not how the system works. The system says no. They get point of free agency. They can choose what they want to do. Yeah. And to be honest, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and we shall see what happens with Ohtani. With the trades that do go on, being the press box manager with the Tampa Bay Rays, you get to build relationships, like you've talked about before, and that it's a business. Now, when you build friendships and you're in the relationship business and not in the transactional business, like you and I are both in that relationship business and not just what can you give me, thank you for this transaction, where's my next transaction coming from? When you build those relationships and these players get traded across the country, I keep in touch with them, you keep in touch with them. So we're not going to lose those friendships and those relationships if both people care about that and it's genuine and it's meaningful. Does it still affect you at all when you see these trades and you see these moments happen when there is that difference, right? When you come to the ballpark the next day and there's a new jersey and there's, somebody in the clubhouse that wasn't there before. Is it exciting for you? Is it hard for you? Because even if the friendship's going to endure, to not be able to see them every day, I mean, how do you handle the crude business side of wake up in the morning and go downstairs and they're not there? Because I have experienced that with the Jaguars a lot. And, most recently with somebody that I really built a close relationship with, and Marvin Jones Jr. and Riley Patterson, and knowing that, God willing, I walk into that locker room this season and I'm grateful, but I'm really sad because we didn't just have a bond on football. We talked about God all the time, which I know that those things can endure and they should, and hopefully they will, but it's still sad when you come down to the locker room or the clubhouse and they're not there.
Well, for me personally, it's maybe the hardest part of what we're talking about. I mean, it's pretty devastating when somebody who I've come to be fairly close friends, and all of a sudden they get traded or released or sent somewhere else, and the relationship, as you said, will continue, but there's no question it's different. Yeah, it's different. And the only way the relationship will continue is if we're intentional. We have to be intentional. I'm sure everybody who's listening right now can relate to this. I mean, think back to your high school days. How many of your high school friends are you still in touch with? You've probably haven't heard from a lot of people who were close friends in high school. You maybe haven't heard from them for years because you weren't intentional about staying in touch with each other. Yeah. I really do try to be intentional. and in today's age, I'm not a tech person at all, but I'm especially not a social media person. But I do use and I love Facebook because it allows me to stay in touch with people who I normally wouldn't be. Um, One of the first things I do when I meet new ball players is I try to get their contact information, email, cell phone, so we can communicate.
Yeah.
And so I'm blessed that I'm still in contact with a lot of. And what's really fun is now that I've been doing this 16 years, almost every team that comes into the Trop, I have a relationship with somebody.
Yeah.
And even, the St. Louis Cardinals are here today, and I've already been in touch with Taylor Motter. Taylor Motter's a journeyman. He's a utility guy, but he and I have had a relationship for many years, and we're going to get together this afternoon at the Trop. And I'm excited about that, that we get to renew this relationship in person.
Yeah.
We've texted and that kind of stuff, but it's not the same as being there. So.
Yeah, and like those things, that's what's exciting. It's exciting, and you bring that up, like DeAndre Smith, good friend of mine. He was the running backs coach at Syracuse under Scott Schaefer. We've been friends for over a decade. He's been all over the place. He's building his career. He's going to be a head coach someday, and I'm excited for that. And so last year, he's the Giants running backs coach. Giants come play the Jaguars. So I get to walk down the stadium and hang out with my friend. And we talk every year, but I got to physically see him, hug him, and I got to see face-to-face him say, "What up, D?" And, to get to have those moments together, and because we both call ourselves D, and each other D, I should say. And then this year, he's at the Colts. So I said, now I got an excuse to see you every year. You keep staying there. I mean, they got to play Jacksonville every season, home and home. So, there's moments like that where you just really have those. And like you said, the Cardinals come in, you have the opportunity to connect, and that's so much fun. I'm already looking at the schedule because I got to come back down to Florida, and I'm like, okay, these are the games that I'm looking to cover for the Rays. And what am I thinking in my head? I'm thinking, yes, it's a baseball game, but to go back to our bigger picture stuff, yes, I want to come to the baseball game, but what am I thinking about? What am I thinking about when I'm looking at the schedule and hoping to come down and cover these games? I get to see Dukes. I want to spend more time with them. I'll be there longer. I'd like to actually spend some time away from everything, get some food, relax, and talk and catch up. And I get to see my other parents, Papa Joe and Mary, my aunt and uncle. And I get to see my big brother, Joey. So to me, it's like, and maybe see my nieces. So it's, yes, I want to go down and cover the Rays, but the bigger thing behind all of that is I want to see my family. I want to see the people that have become my family as friends, and I want to see my family. And that's what makes it fun for me, is it's like, you could cover any game, any team in Major League Baseball. I'm like, well, if I go down and cover Tampa, I get to see Dukes. So, Dukes, friendships are intentional. And when both people have good intentions, some pretty special things can come about, like the friendship you and I have had for over a decade.
I was just going to say that. I mean, look at how many years was it from the time we actually were physically together. It was years, yeah. but we kept in touch. We were intentional, so it's good. Dan, I have to apologize because I have to run here.
Yeah, me too. I just looked at the time. I'm like, wow, we went past 11. But as always, Dukes, I appreciate it. Blessings in baseball every other Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern time. As always, Dukes, I appreciate it. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your faith and your friendship and all that you do with the Rays. And I look forward to talking with you soon.
Right back at you, buddy. Love you.
Love you too. God bless. That coming from Dukes Knutson one more time here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. You get going in these conversations and you just kind of like, it's 11 o'clock. And so, but that means it's a good conversation. So with that being said, we'll take our final step aside. We'll get you set to wrap up today's show as I get set to go over to Syracuse football camp once again. If you've been following me on the social medias as well as on YouTube, On YouTube, we've added to our shorts. So we have a bunch of short videos there on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt from Syracuse football camp. We also have our longer extended interviews on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. So if you want to get all of that, plus all of our LeMoyne content, Bryan and Stratton College of Syracuse, what we just added for Alfred University, and our special with Joe Kopp in the Saxon Spotlight, and so much more, go to YouTube, search @wakeupcalldt or youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, bring it to the same place, click subscribe, and you'll have all of our videos as they constantly are released throughout the year. So make sure you do that. We'll take a step aside. We'll wrap up today's show right after this, where sports meets life.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbeville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognized that, we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, hanging out with you where sports truly meets that thing called life. Happy to be here with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern time on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, as well as on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. Once the shows go live, hop into the archive, Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, MixLR, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, Player FM, Podbean, Podvine, and so on and so forth. All you got to do on your favorite podcasting platform is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. Big time thanks to our incredible partners, Carvel DeWitt, where we have our DT Dolphins Sunday in honor of the LeMoyne Dolphins. Go and try it any day of the week over at 4322 East Genesee Street in DeWitt, New York, right down the road from LeMoyne College. And, of course, the Wildcat Sports Pub, where we have our monthly broadcasts with the West Genesee Wildcats. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, Central New York snack capital. You got to get yourself over to Ma and Pa's. It is like going to the state fair every day. All the snacks are right there. 317 at Montgomery Street. The name of the restaurant is the name of the location, and 317 at Montgomery Street's food is incredible. They just expanded their menu, and there's some absolutely fantastic flavors. It's not just one thing at 317. It's so many different flavors. It's like going to a bunch of restaurants in one. The attention to detail, the plating of the food, the taste of the food, the service, it's all there at 317 at Montgomery Street, so make your way out there today. GG Cards and Breaks, big time shout out to GG Cards and Breaks on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks right off of Teal Avenue, the place where you're going to find your sports card hobby is going to reach its favorite place that it's ever been. GG Cards and Breaks reminds me of my childhood, reminds me of where I used to go as a kid. They have Major League Baseball, every team, NBA, every team, NFL, every team. Jump into the box of your favorite team. Find special cards, find autographs, find inserts, find relic cards, find rookie cards of your favorite teams. You never know what you're going to find in those team boxes. Single cards, graded cards, packs, boxes. They have Magic, they have Pokemon. It is the place to be. GG Cards and Breaks makes sense that it is nestled right where I spent most of my life growing up. 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, right off of Teal Ave. Grow up there with them. Have your kids grow up with GG Cards and Breaks. It's a great hobby, and every month, same hobby, new memories is what we call it. It's our way of connecting everyone who has loved the hobby for years and everyone who's getting into it, as well as those that were never in the hobby, but they're in the hobby now. Same hobby, new memories. Everyone who's collecting cards comes together at GG Cards and Breaks. Monthly trade nights. Make sure you're coming to the one next week as well. Can't wait to see you there. GG is open Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Sundays from 10 to 5. Big time shout out to Mother's Cupboard, the place of my sandwich exclusively. The Cuse McMother is there 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. It is bacon, egg, and cheese inside of 2 pieces of French toast. Cut it up and eat it with syrup. Pick it up and eat it like a sandwich. It is extremely, extremely appetizing, and I want it every time I go. So, you made something that you like when the community likes it. The community's been getting it since day one, and I can't help but want to get it every time I go in. The Cuse McMother exclusively at Syracuse Staple Restaurant right there. Mother's Cupboard, 3709 James Street in Syracuse, New York. Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, led by one of my greatest friends, true brothers, and wonderful people, Jim Sikowski. So much more than a Chick-fil-A at Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay. Great Lakes Honda City, where I get all my vehicles. PB&J's Lunchbox, where their incredible menu, they have traditional favorites, and then they have spins on everything. Their flavors are unique, and there's really nothing I've gotten there that hasn't been good in its uniqueness. The tuna melts, to the barbecue chicken quesadilla, to the nachos, to the shrimp tacos, to their, there's so many, the chili that I've gotten there. My mom just got the chicken and rice soup. It's all good at PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you travel with all throughout Central and Upstate New York, and the cafe on 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Avicoli's, fantastic food. Just got the grandma's pie there. Insane. I can't believe that I wasn't getting that before. I love so many of their pizzas. The grandma's pie, my new favorite by far. Chick-fil-A Watertown, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, which I trust with Lily all the time. Canine Camp Dog Daycare and Canine Campground Dog Boarding. Because of their staff, I trust them as an all-around company for short and long-term care for Lily and for your dogs as well. Pizza Man, where we have our Beville shows on site, on location. Love Pizza Man. Of course, my lemon pepper wings and my sweet heat pizza. And then Avicoli's with our Liverpool shows like we just did with the football kickoff broadcast with their Liverpool Warriors football team. Of course, we are the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your LeMoyne College Dolphins. It's Fins Up every single month on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. The Dolphins join me every single Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time for our special Dolphin Time. Wednesdays at 9, when it's the first and third Wednesday of each month, it's AD&DT with Athletics Director Bob Beretta and myself, Dan Tortora. Every second and fourth Wednesday, we jump into the Dolphin Dive, like we did today, with stories from student athletes, coaches, administration, future Dolphins, and more. We have the Dolphins here with us all throughout the month, and an ever-growing library on the LeMoyne tab on wakeupcalldt.com, and by subscribing to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt for more information. Go to LeMoyneDolphins.com, and as always, fins up. The Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse are here with you as exclusive multimedia marketing partners of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. The Bobcat Buzz comes to you every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration all throughout the year with the Bobcats. We just did a Bobcat Takeover women's soccer special with Alex Grigorita, who joined me to talk on the FIFA Women's World Cup here in 2023, the U.S. Women's National Team, as well as speaking on his team, his upcoming schedule, his recruiting, and so much more with the Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse. You can go back and watch that Bobcat Buzz special and so many more on the BSC Syracuse tab on wakeupcalldt.com by subscribing to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. For more information on your Bobcats, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com, and as always, go Bobcats. The Alfred University Saxons are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. The Saxons come to you every Monday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Set it and keep it every single week. Saxon Time is on Mondays to start off your week, and they bring you the presidential perspective here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, first and third Monday of each month with President Mark Zupan, and topics all throughout the year, including the Saxon Hill Complex extension to the student-athlete, student, and fan experience for their athletic programs that is being moved forward, and I'm so excited about the Saxon Hill Complex project. And of course, every second and fourth Monday, the Saxon Spotlight, like we did this week with Joe Kopp, who's wearing number 32, to honor Nick Clark, who played at Alfred University, went to school there, and went on to serve in such an amazing way in our community, and ended up passing away in the line of duty. So a big time shout out to Nick Clark in heaven and his loved ones here on earth and in heaven, and to Joe Kopp and his loved ones on earth and in heaven. Very excited that he's one of the captains wearing number 32, and excited to share all of these Saxon spotlights with you. You can go and see Joe Kopp's special on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. You can also go to Alfred Hughes tab on wakeupcalldt.com, and for more information, go to gosaxons.com. As always, go Saxons. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, I want to thank Liz Beville for joining me for our Dolphin Dive, the Road to D1 series, exclusively here on Wake Up Call, speaking with coaches all throughout LeMoyne College on that road from Division II to Division I. Liz Beville being the women's lacrosse head coach at LeMoyne, and thank you for all of her breaking news with the schedule and the awesome games that are coming up, as well as speaking on her new assemblance of a wonderful staff that's going to be here for us, which I'm excited about. And blessings in baseball. A truly amazing, heartwarming, eye-opening, and thoughtful conversation with Dukes Knutson, the press box manager of the Tampa Bay Rays. And I look forward to you going and watching that back as well, because there were so many wonderful things in there about God, about life, about treating other people, and baseball, and so much more. So make sure you don't miss a moment of that. Big time shout out to Dukes and to Liz. I hope you have a great day. Facebook at WakeUpCallDT, Twitter at CallDT, Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT. I'll have more from Syracuse camp after this. Can't wait to see you on our social media, and I hope you have a great day. God bless. No stress. Do your best. We'll talk soon.